Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first Guidebook Meets of 2026. And we're really excited to have you all joining us today. And if this is the first time you're joining us, then thank you for giving up some time. We're really excited to bring our guest on up in a second. For those that have joined a few of these, you might notice that we're on a different platform as well to where we previously were on Zoom. But yeah, it was time to join Wistia, and hopefully it will create a better experience for you all as we go through this. So today we're going to be joined by Brittany Jackson. She's the Director of Orientation and New Student Programs at North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University. We're really pleased to have her here joining us. So I'm going to just welcome her to the stage now.
Good morning, everyone.
Brittany, hi. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Nathan. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thank you. And I appreciate you taking some time out to come and dive in to share some insights on orientation and guidebook and all that good stuff today.
I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to talk about it. And so just looking forward to some meaningful conversation about what we've done with it here at A&T.
Amazing. Well, I always like to start these things off by getting a sense of you and your role and what you love about what you do. So are you able to just kind of open up about, yeah, your role at NCA&T and your experience there?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I serve as a director for orientation and new student programs here at A&T. I've been in this role for 2 years, actually the week of my 2-year anniversary. So happy anniversary to me there. In this position, it's really exciting. So I obviously oversee orientation operations, but the office is unique in the sense that I do new student programming for our new incoming students, both first-time freshmen and transfer students their first year here at A&T. We have a large student staff a part of this team. This year we have about 100 plus students that work in various capacities. There are IT success leaders. We have a media team that we've implemented, student ambassadors, office workers, all those things in between. And we really just are the connecting block, I feel like, for students as they are coming into A&T, helping them transition into what the university culture is, what we do, how we do things here, what is Aggie Pride. And it's a really rewarding position to be in. You get to meet all the students and their families and kind of just give them a sense of ease and comfort as they take this next big step in their journeys.
I love that. Thank you for that context. And I should say that we will be taking some Q&A at the end. So you'll see the Q&A functionality. So do feel free to put your questions in throughout and we'll get to those at the end. But yeah, we've got some good time to get into that. Brittany, I kind of want to jump in and, NCA&T, they've been with Guidebook since 2017. And as you've just shared, this is your 2-year anniversary. So you kind of took over that responsibility of Guidebook. And I kind of want to get a sense to kind of shape the narrative here today around like, what did you see when you looked at those early efforts coming in with fresh eyes and like fresh perspective? And what told you that maybe there was room to make some positive changes or do things slightly differently? How did you approach that?
So when I got to A&T, they were doing some really great things, but I felt like in this particular office, there was so much room for growth. So I learned there had been Guidebook used in the past, but it was not active at the time. So got into the system and I'm looking at all these old guides, right? And they were there and, they were live at some point in time. But they just really weren't informative in the way I think students and their families needed to see them and to receive them. It felt like, from my lens, that let's get a technical, a virtual app and let's run with it. And I don't know that it was a lot of intentionality able to be put behind it during those initial years of having the Guidebook on campus. And so I took it, I looked to see what was being done with it. And I said, how can I restructure this to meet the means and the demands of our population? Now, I will also say that wasn't always well received, right? Because some of the pushback was, well, people want paper documents. They want to have a schedule in their hand. And I'm like, okay, well, they're not going to get one this year. So I need you all to trust me on the process with this. This will be a really easy guide for them to use. They're not going to have issues with it. Just trust the process and try to roll it out. So taking the initiative to say, let's brand the app. Let's not have it where you have to go into, the Guidebook store, then look for it and search for it. Let's brand it to make it ours. A&T is very big on our brand. We take much pride in it. So that was kind of an easy sale. And then just incorporating everyone into it. So in the past, it was offered as an option, but it wasn't offered as the only option for for one, and then two, I took the initiative to put everyone into the app before orientation. So that was also a help too, right? You'll see sometimes people are encouraged to scan and download it, or here, go to this link and do it. Well, I imported them. Everyone's in it. I put them in different categories, student, family support. I make the student leaders get in it and learn the app as well. So when they have questions about it, they were able to answer it. So we just hit the ground rolling. And for those of you who are in the orientation world, I said my 2-year anniversary, right, is in February. So imagine coming to this position and orientation was not yet planned. And so it was a very quick rollout. But I knew it was one that I think we were going to see the benefits from it to do it and just kind of bite the bullet and make that happen.
Yeah, I love that. There's nothing like, having to hit the ground running and just get your hands sort of on everything as soon as you possibly can.
Sprinting.
You mentioned there about making that decision around the branded app, and I'm just curious on that point. You say that the brand is really important to you, but like, what did you hope that when you transitioned out of the Guidebook container app to that branded app, like, obviously brand is a key element, but like, what did you hope that would do for the students or, for the family members? Why was that really important?
I would, it would bring them excitement, right? So when you go through the admissions process, you're looking at all these things and you're clicking on this link, you're submitting an app here, you're looking at your application decision here, but this app was truly for them. It's the first thing they get to see that's like, it's created for you. It's created with you in mind. It's created to cultivate your experience, to make sure that you have a really, successful opportunity, or you have the opportunity to kind of get in front of this and it just feels like it's yours. And so when people realize that the guide was an A&T orientation admissions app, it was like, oh, you all made this for me, right? And so I mentioned earlier, Aggie Pride is such a huge component here at ANC. And I think that's a really opening step to Aggie Pride, right? Like, this is for me. You all did this for me. And you see that response when students are like, oh, it's not just something that, is associated or affiliated or attached or in a cloud. No, this app is truly created for my use, for the use of those who are supporting me in this transition. So I'm gonna be biased in that regard, but I do think that it kind of is the first little step of something that feels special to them, and they are a little more eager to dive into it and to use it because it's not a shared space; it's their space.
Yeah, no, okay, yeah, no, that's great. And I do, we hear from a lot of customers and clients who yeah, that branded element really helps like elevate things. It helps them kind of, the first touch point isn't Guidebook, it's you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like it removes that layer of friction and kind of creates maybe a sense of belonging or just like knowing that they're in the right place and that. So I think that's great.
It also helps that I just want to add, talking about what was being done before I came into the role, it wasn't a branded guide. So then you were having to give instructions about go to the Guidebook app, find the guide, download the guide. So when you talk about users and those who are kind of in the app and utilizing it, that was a barrier at first that I realized. So when I made the push, like, let's just invest in it because it takes away a level of discomfort for those who are not maybe as tech friendly as others. So that was also an added feature as well. Just talking about wanting to make sure it was the branded guide.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you're now, as you kind of alluded to, you're running a lot of different events and moments through the app, and those moments in time, like, they have different audiences, whether it's first time orientation, whether it's prospective students, transfers, family members. Like, how do you think about the content strategy across all of those different audiences? Is it one unified experience that you're trying to create, or are you delving into that personalization and tailoring it differently depending on who you're trying to engage or what they need?
So no, that's a great question. I tell colleagues a lot here that I'm one of the few offices that has to program for students and their families, right? So you think about a collegiate experience and students are coming to campus and your focus becomes just the student, but my target audience has to always be the student and possibly, a parent, a support, a loved one, a guardian, or someone of that nature. So definitely couldn't approach it with a blank kind of format. Language was super important. So how do I make this something that is quick to read for the students, because we all know they want some instantaneous instructions. They do not want to read lengthy paragraphs, but also something that is detailed enough that their mother or their father or their grandparent can read it and understand what's going on. Not having too many images or not having too many outbreaks or, to go to the next space, like making it really direct for those students who want to get a direct answer, but also making it feel slow enough for someone who may be not as welcoming to using a tech only app to get the schedule for the day. And then a huge component was making sure that we have, our different, the words leave me, but our different options. So the students have a schedule and they have the tracks. I'm so sorry. The app has the track feature. So making sure that we set tracks for everyone who is going to be using the app, right? There's a first time freshman track. There's a parent and guest track. There is a transfer track because all those tracks look different. And so kind of creating even the descriptions of the events, that part of the detail is different depending on what track you are on. So I'm going to describe lunch very differently for our students and I describe it for our parents and our guests. And it's an elevated lunch experience, different for the parents and guests too, right? So the track feature really allowed me to kind of personalize it for each of the different kind of users that will be on the application. And then we also shared it across campus. So letting, my superiors look at it and say, are you comfortable with this? This is what's going to be rolling out. And they felt like it was really user friendly for them as well. So that was a win. That was a plus. And just being mindful about the image that we're portraying on the app. So I was really intentional about our pictures showing engagement. I didn't want, kind of your like cheesy pictures, if you will, right? I wanted people to get on this app and see live examples of what orientation looked like so they can know what to expect from it. Even if something is questions, this generation of students are always like, what do I wear? I'm like, make sure they can see what their peers are wearing, right? I wanted to show that we bring in so many parents and guests for orientation. So I wanted those who were looking at to also be able to see that too. You're represented here. This is something that's been created for you as well. So the tracks was a huge plus. Also making sure that the content was really catered to our audience. And that takes you to have to know your audience too, right? I think another issue or another area of opportunity that I took upon myself to take was the first couple guides that A&T were using really weren't catered to different audiences. It kind of was a one-track guide. And I want to really intentional in bringing it back that I was making sure that everyone who was going to use it could feel that they were able to use it and be successful in that.
So how, you sort of, there's a few things I want to touch on there, but you sort of, how did you do that due diligence or put that together where you understood like what content was going to be relevant for the different groups to ensure that you were putting the right things into the guide?
That was kind of a hands-on experience. So there were some things that I could kind of guess. I also did some kind of informal focus groups, right? So my colleagues who are parents, I'm like, hey, look over this for me and tell me what you think. Is it easy for you to read? And I kind of made them my little focus group. I also will add that it takes time to build that up. The first year we were rolling it out really quickly. So there were some things we missed. Absolutely. I will 100% own that I missed some things rolling it out that first year. And then the second year, we started inputting our surveys into it, right? So I'm like, oh my God, I can put our feedback surveys into the app. I don't have to have something separately for it. That was a missed opportunity the first year, but we went back and we built up on it. We were able to change our marketing for it. So at opening session now, even though every person is input into the particular guide, we still market it on our screens, right? And then we kind of show screenshots of what you can expect to see when you're into the app so people can know they're in the right place or et cetera. And I think a big part, and it's a situation I think every kind of school can deal with, is that I really started pushing that it's live updates because, we had a really hot summer last year. We had a session where we lost some buildings due to air conditioning issues, and being able to say, just check your Guidebook app. It's changing in real time. Really pushing that narrative to kind of show some appreciation to it as well. So I would say those are some things, but the colleagues and the folks and my students and my student leaders, I asked their parents. I'm like, hey, we're working on a new app. I want you to look at it. And the same for the student track as well. Like my student leaders had to get in there and navigate it. And I'm like, give me feedback, honest feedback about what doesn't work, what works, what language is too wordy, what language is not enough. But I think just having real people kind of practice it before you roll it out will be really helpful to when it's at that finished product that you're actually giving access to your actual guests.
Yeah, no, that's it. That makes a lot of sense. And you've mentioned there a couple of times, that decision to go down the bulk import route, when you're thinking about like, how do you get people into the app? Like, did you, what made you decide that? And then have you seen like what, how have you measured the success of that? Have you seen more engagement in the app? Have you seen more, like what kind of drives you to know that that decision was the correct one and that you can kind of continue to do that each year?
I saw more success in it this past summer. So the first summer, because we were on such a tight timeline, I wasn't doing the bulk import into the morning of. Not a good idea.
Mm.
Because people are coming to campus, they have enough instruction to figure out. They're like, I'm trying to find parking. You put me into an app. What is going on? Would not recommend. 0 to 0 did not recommend. Last summer, we were at bulk importing a week out. So it
Okay.
allowed them to get familiarized with what was going on with the app. If they had questions, they could call the office and still get answers for it. If they had any issues, we gave us lead time to walk them through it, right? And we saw much more usage of it this second summer because we were giving opportunity to not have to manage it 2 hours before orientation started. So it has been great, and as you use it more, you learn more. So I became more familiar with how to make some of the subgroups using the bulk import and how to kind of navigate that as well. And they like being able to kind of see that they're in a community already. Community is really big at A&T, and so it extends far beyond our students. Our alumni base is huge, and a lot of times, a lot of our family support are Aggies, and they want to build community so badly. So it has helped. It has absolutely helped. If you're going to do the bulk import, give yourself some lead time with it, because it allows your guests to familiarize themselves with the app, and to also reach out to your office to ask any questions. And it gives you time to fix any errors, right? So something changes in the blink of an eye. You have about 7 days to go in there and make that correction. It's not interrupting anybody. So that was my key takeaway from doing the bulk import. But I'll do it forever. Like, I don't think I'll ever do it any other way.
That's great. I mean, I'm pleased it's worked. And obviously you've adjusted your timelines there going into, this year. Are you going to stick with that week sort of lead
If
time?
not
'Cause that's
longer. Yeah, if not
yeah, a
longer.
bit longer.
Hmm.
Would you, yeah, if you were to go a bit longer, like, was that hoping that just people get in there and engage again sooner and earlier? Is there like, what do you hope that people are engaging with? Is it just getting ahead of like the schedule and that, or is there kind of, what are you putting in information that you're hoping that they're engaging with ahead of time outside of the schedule?
We're putting in more information. We're going to put in our family weekend information as well, because it will go live for orientation. So giving them a heads up about that, right? We're also doing some revenue generation projects at orientation. So to let them know, like, we'll have some things happening different. So as many of them have talked, they're in other groups, they're like, oh, I know what orientation looks like. Well, you don't. It changes every year, kind of, some small details change. So the extra leeway time, I think, just gives us opportunity to give more information. And I will say, my population of folks, they do not like leaving their students. They want to go with them all day. And so I think it gives them time to wrap their mind around the fact that you're going to be on a separate track you're going to drop your student off. You're going to leave them, and you're going to go do your own orientation, and you're not going to see them again until 5 o'clock that afternoon. If even then, the schedule actually is supposed to let you not see them to the next day, but I've lost that battle with them. So they go see them at dinner. They sneak off and see them at dinner. But it also just allows them to come to terms with it, right? Like, familiarize yourself, prepare your questions. Even I know I'm going to have opportunities to sit in front of this presenter or this office, so I know that I'll get this information. And we have a very high influx of calls over the summertime, because people just they want answers, and they want them right away. So I think giving some information out earlier, I'm hoping it will alleviate some of those phone calls. Not because we don't want them, but we are prepping for orientation. So it helps my team kind of be able to step away and do some of the hands-on logistics, and people still are informed. So we get questions about immunization all the time. Well, now if I know 3 weeks out that I'm going to have opportunity to go submit my records, because my schedule shows me that, it takes away the need for me to call the office and inquire about it. So I'm hoping that it provides some of that additional support, just from not just my office, but my colleagues as well, because that we're all kind of facing the same situation over the summertime, and we're all trying to gear up to serve them in real time on campus. So to help take some of that pressure off of the calls and the emails, because we've kind of given you a nice little heads up early enough that you can prepare yourself, and just know that when you get here, we can take care of that in person.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be really interesting case study to see if you can think about like what are those touch points that would alleviate calls coming to the office and just give more people more time back, and like how the app can serve that process.
We're working on it. I mentioned, the web series that we're going to do, and I can touch on it more later, but that'll be a help to it as well. So hopefully that we're going to alleviate some of that for this upcoming summer.
Yeah, amazing. And we've spoke about sort of parents and the difference between the parents' journey and the students' journey. Do you find that there's a difference in the way that those two demographics engage with the app? Do you know, how intentional do you have to be with those different experiences that you create? And, you know, how do you monitor that engagement to see like, okay, we need to think about this for parents or this for students? Like, how are you kind of managing that?
So I've made peace with the fact that we'll always have to tell our parents and guests, like, you have to use the app. I don't think that's ever going to change. I think they always will want to come in and hold something in their hands that tells
Mm-hmm.
them and guides them throughout the day. But that communication up front is something that we train the students on. So we're like, hey, they may be hesitant. They may not be as excited about it as you are, but encourage them, show them how to use it. For students, that's an easy thing, and I'm happy that it's easy because they love apps. I mean, they're going to download it. They're going to walk themselves through it. They're going to look at it, and it also is a conversation starter, right? So when they're in the room and they're looking at stuff, our students can go up and say, do you have the app downloaded? Have you looked at it? It kind of breaks the ice for some of the student interactions. And then for our parents and our guests, I think just making it easy. I mean, you don't have to you want it to look good. I think that our app does look great. I've switched the task over to my new assistant director, and I'm thankful for that. So she's managing it. But my instructions to her were, to maintain its user friendliness, maintain the branding of ANT, but just make sure it's something people want to look at and want to be a part of. And doing things, my hope this year is that we're able to, after the sessions, to put our presentations on the app so that our parents and guests, our students alike can go back and refresh themselves. It'll have the contact information for our presenters. So it's, they're not kind of doing the shuffle, trying to get a hold of someone if they have some follow-up questions. And they'll just create a space they can go back and refer to for the entire summer till their students come. And even then after, until the app closes, for the refresher for the next year. So I hope that answered it. But I think the basic thing is to keep it clean, keep it easy, and you have to know your audience. And that takes some legwork, right? I mean, it takes some trial and error. It takes some feedback, and the feedback isn't always pleasant, but I welcome it. I'm like, if you hate it, tell me you hate it so I can make it better. If you love it, tell me you love it so I can share the word with somebody else. But I do want the feedback so I can know, because it's something we're investing in. So I want the investment. I want a return of interest on the investment. So feedback is going to play a pivotal part if you're looking to bring it on to your office or your campus.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of moving forward a little bit, you're running more and more events through the platform, right? You have different ways in which you're using Guidebook now, for different events, different moments in the student journey, the student calendar. That creates more maybe content that you need to manage, more ways in which you have to think about the journey, the flow, all of that sort of stuff. So like, what does that look like behind the scenes when you're managing an app with lots of different moments in time or guides within it? And yeah, like how are you kind of keeping that sustainable? How are you kind of operating the team to really ensure that you're getting full ROI or from every time that you use the app?
So 2 years ago we bought it back, and now we are running seven events through Guidebook. So I think one thing that it's helped, let me start here. One thing that it's really helped is it is required two offices that work with our incoming students the most to be on the same track. So I onboarded Guidebook for orientation. And then we immediately said we're going to use this for our admissions events. So our admitted student day events, our open house events. Well, also in that conversation, I am pushing to say, well, we need to make sure that we're training them. And people don't like to use that word a lot, but here's the truth. You train your students and your parents and families how to adjust to your institution. So the initial thing was your guides need to mirror in some extent this guide, because we're kind of teaching them how to progress to this orientation aspect. And even with our admitted student day and open houses, admitted student day more specifically, now we're trying to align the programs, right? Because we want to make sure that in all that we're doing, we're kind of coming in a sequence of events. Like, how do we make sure that we are providing for them similar experiences for different events, but kind of align and come back to the full picture. And so the two teams are split. So our admissions team, they manage the open house guide and the admitted student guide. And the Aggie Scholar Showcase Guide. That's housed with them. I am doing the orientation guides, welcome week, parent and family weekend, and so just making sure that it makes sense. Now, I'll be honest. My office supports upward of 4,000 students coming in each semester, which for some may be a lot, and for some it may not be that many. But our team is very small. So the first 2 years, I handled the guidebook, and that was a lot because you're preparing one, you get through orientation. The last 2 years, our family weekend has been 2 weeks after moving. So then you're immediately preparing it for that, but then in the 2 weeks you've had welcome week, so you are constantly working in the guide to get it prepared and get it ready. My recommendation with that is, find someone on the team who loves it. So Miss Ayana Bell, who's my AD, she loves doing that work, and when I gave it to her, she elevated it more than I could. So I had a vision for it, but I'm like, here's my vision, and it's yours, it's your baby now, so take it off, take off running with it. But it also just allowed us to intertwine those things as well. We are debating creating some kind of like a general guide for welcome week, just to show our family and supporters that there is programming for students to attend for 2 weeks. So we go for about 14 school days of welcome week events. So I'm like, how can we showcase that without giving details, right, for their safety, but just so they can know that we're having events for them? How can we tie that in? Do we put it into the guide for orientation? Do we put it into the guide opening up for parent and family weekend? How do we put that in a place where their supporters can say, hey, New Student Programs is having an event Tuesday at 6 o'clock, you should go to it, right? Find out where it is, So we're even exploring that, but it takes a lot to manage them. It takes a lot to manage them because you want them to be good. And I can speak from experience. It's easy for one person to do it. It's super helpful if it's more than one person. But we've just really been trying to get on a consistent basis of how are we branding this to go across multiple departments, and the students are going to touch with each one of us. So, what's our intentions behind making sure that we're each represented individually, but we're kind of coaching them on what to expect when they come to campus and continue using this app in some ways, or transition to something else in others.
Yeah, no, that's great. That makes a lot of sense. And I guess like thinking of all those different use cases and how you've expanded as a campus and the way in which you use the product, like who's making that case internally to leadership to kind of invest in the platform? Like what does that conversation look like? Are there certain things that you have to bring to the table, whether it be metrics or problems you're wanting to solve? Like what advice maybe would you give people that are using it for one event or looking to kind of scale a little bit more?
So I made the pitch. I was pushing it at the beginning. And like I said, all the people on campus were worried about how it's going to be received in such a quick turnaround. And the biggest thing from the beginning, I said we can build on this. If we put one event on here, we can always expand it, right? And we can kind of make it our own. The branded guide was a big sell at A&T because A&T we love our brand. So it was a huge push to say we're having something that's ours to push out. And the metrics are super important. So being able to go back and say, users are in here. They are making connections. They're building network out of this. They are, emailing each other. They're looking in the app throughout the program to say, oh, I saw this woman in a session and she asked a really good question. She's also in the app. I can reach out to her, or ping her, or try to get her information or get her name. They're connecting with it in real time, and it's helping our supporters build community, which we know supports our students. It helps our student success. So looking at just pulling that information and going back for me has been, this is why we should keep investing in this. We're seeing the fruits of our labor, honestly. And when our families, the student included, come to open house and they come to admitted student day and they come to orientation, they know what to expect. We have created for them a streamlined process on, oh, I know I have to have this app. Now I'm using it for 3 huge programs, and that's just 3 of the 7, right? I'm using it for 3 huge programs, and it makes it easier and it's cleaner. I also think it was a big help and a big push with our team, for me to share with my leadership and then up on the food chain that we're getting positive feedback about it. And it's not often when you work in, the business of orientation, you get feedback. Now, it's not always great. They'll tell you when it's not the greatest. They don't always tell you when it's good. But when you are getting routine feedback about something, and the media team, I'm going to tie this in for you. I created the student media team to help us with marketing. And because they're on site, they start to get testimonials from our parents and our guests and our students about what things they like. And when I'm able to show a video to say, hey, these 6 people in their testimonial all mentioned that the Guidebook app was a great help to them, or having the app on their phone was really helpful, having the map on their phone was really helpful to the campus. It's an easy sell, right? Get a student with a camera because they love to take pictures and record all the time. You're building their portfolio, put it into a video and show it. And it's going to play itself and it's going to market itself forever because that's real life experience and real life testimonials from real people. So that's going to help be able to just to say it, not just in the numbers, not just in me telling you what it is, but to really see it firsthand was super helpful as well too.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love the engaging the students to create the student testimonials and to use that to like hopefully not only influence decision around Guidebook, but also just how you're planning orientation moving forward. And like, do you think about that? Like, I know you sort of mentioned it's great to have good feedback, but when you get constructive feedback about the app or orientation, or even like using the metrics, does that kind of help you determine how you're going to evolve year to year, event to event?
Absolutely. I mean, some people struggle with feedback. I think negative feedback is my best resource because you are in a real time experience something that wasn't a good experience for you. So I want you to tell it to me so I can be intentional to make it a better experience for you and the next person that maybe didn't get to share that with me. And it does help. Like I said, the first summer they were going out too late. And people were frustrated by that. They genuinely express frustration when they're walking into orientation at 6:30 in the morning. They're trying to do all these things, from check into a building, check into the actual orientation site, and then I'm telling them download an app. They were like, this is too much. I do not want to partake in this. Receipts. You are absolutely correct, right? So then we're rolling it out a week early because that gives you time to get comfortable with it. You don't feel like you're being pressured to it. You can ease yourself into it. So sometimes some of the feedback that we're getting is super helpful. Having the QR code on our screens during opening session was helpful because we have a high on-site registration population. And so then it was, well, Brittany registered herself. So she was, in the bulk import, but Nathan didn't, and he needs the app. I can't share the app with them. So, okay, it's on the screen, right? And that was some feedback. I want the same experience if I register on site as the person who registered 2 months in advance, guys. So how are we kind of pulling that into our real time experience for those people to make sure they have the things they need to be successful around here too? And the students, the students are like, Miss Jackson, this is too much information. It's too much information. I'm not reading it. Tell me that. Thank you so much. I do appreciate it. They're like, put a graphic in there instead of putting a paragraph. Okay, you're right. We can make a graphic. Let's get on Canva, make a graphic, go right, go left, go zoom, and you're done. And students are going to look at that more than they are going to read my well thought out paragraph about why the next session is so great for them. So, I like it. I think that if you don't harp on it being negative and you use it to your advantage, then it actually is great feedback at the end of the day because you're building your brand and you're able to incorporate some of that feedback to make your user experience better. At the end of the day, I think the work that we do is, it's about customer experience. So you want to make sure that you're always pouring into that. At least I do. So it's been helpful. The things that they have issues with, at least lets me know I can go in and fix a problem.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's a good approach to how to take on board that feedback and make changes. And I know we've got a couple more questions, and then just a reminder. I mean, I think I've seen a question or two come in, but yeah, if people have questions, do submit them, and we'll take them at the end. But beyond sort of like some of the stuff we've spoken about, just have you sort of had a moment in orientation where you saw the app making a real difference, and you kind of clocked that moment? It was like, this is working.
I have, and so had an older guest that was on campus, and again, they try to go with their students everywhere. So they're like, Like the schedule tells me to go here. I'm like, no, it doesn't tell you to go here. Let's look at it together, right? And so being able to kind of sit with that guest, explain the app to them, and then feel this like sense of relief. Like, oh, this actually is really easy. I'm like, yeah, it's super easy. I make it easy for you. I want it to be easy for you. And then just kind of showing the appreciation of it, right? So like everyone, I would love to have time to sit in orientation and go through the guidebook app with everyone. And who's to say that we're not going to do that? The schedule gets tweaked all the time because I'm always looking for ways to kind of make it better. But in that one-on-one instance, being able to see the stress kind of leave a guest was really beneficial for me because we're putting a lot of time and effort into the app. If you all are, looking into it to build it or to get it, it takes time to build it and it becomes your personal project. And so, aside from the business aspect, I just want anyone who's looking at my personal project to like it. Like I want them to say, oh, this actually is really cool. And so, that person had an experience on day one. We talked through it. We rectified it. We showed them. And then they were able to use it to their benefit on day two. Like, great. Okay. Hey, someone's in the crowd, like, got my phone. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You're using the app. I love to see that. And it allows them to positively influence those that are around them. Now I've taught you something. If you see if someone that you've met in a session are having issues with it, you can then go back and kind of help them figure that out as well. You can go back and use it as a resource, all those things. So, I mean, that may be something small to another director, but here, and just knowing kind of the things and the challenges that we experience, I guess saying thank you for this, something so small, took 10 minutes out the day of what is to be busy days for orientation, just to show them something that you've built and you've created for them, and them to see that and to utilize it was really impactful for me. And I'm able to kind of take that energy and then pour it back into the platform, right? Like, okay, well, this is great. How do we keep making it better? So those one-off things happen. You also have students who are coming alone, and they do not have any support and they do not have any relationships that they're formed here, and all they have is this app. All they have is this guide. They don't, and they're not going to be the most willing to reach out and talk to someone. So it is literally their pocket tool for the entire time they're with us. And being able to see them navigate our campus, our program, because they're using something that we've built, is also really rewarding for me as well.
I love that. That's a great answer. I have two quick fire questions for you. Then we've got a bunch of questions coming in, and I want to get to those. But yeah, two quick fire questions. One thing you're looking forward to about the upcoming orientation cycle. Is there anything that's like standing out for you?
Trying to think. I'm looking forward to, so although it's been 2 years, this will be my third orientation cycle, and for the first time, I feel like we're really ahead of the eight ball. Like, I feel really good. We are rolling out next month something that I've named Aggie Essentials. So we're doing webinars similar to this with our students and their families, and each webinar will focus on a different topic. One webinar will also include Guidebook. So our very last one before orientation starts will say, like, this is just a quick, webinar conversation to tell you about this app that we use to navigate you through orientation. Having that kind of lead time to do those things is really, really exciting for me. So I'm excited to see also what that looks like for, we mentioned earlier, like, the calls over the summer, or just the questions or the preparedness. Like, is this really going to work to make our guests more prepared? I'm just excited to see the results of it. And so I think that personalized experience and having some of those intimate settings for our guests are really going to be really beneficial. So I'm excited about that.
You've kind of answered both my quickfire questions with one, because my next question was going to be, is there something new you're doing this year? But I think you've kind of covered. Yeah. I think you kind of covered that, so that's good. We can get to audience questions now. So okay. The first one is, we use physical packets for in-person orientation. Do you provide physical packets for students and parents and digital materials in the app?
Took it all away. And we've steadily been kind of building to it. So campus partners who have traditionally wanted to put in, a one pager or something, I've said digitize it and we'll put it in the app. And then they have access to it. They can go back and look at it. It won't get lost. It won't get shuffled. It won't get wrinkled. So that was something that required some buy-in when I first got here as well. It's like, I put this paper in a folder for orientation for the last 10 years. I'm like, well, you're not doing it this year. You can put it on a PDF. I'll upload it to the app if you want me to, but that's how we're going to do it. And it has actually been really well received, I think, by campus partners and our guests who are using it. So it cuts the paper down. Our custodial staff is happy. They're not cleaning the gym up with all kind of papers around, because people want to hold them, but they're not keeping up with them. They're not they're not actually using them to their benefit. So I mean, all the way around, I've eventually gotten a really welcoming response, so people are able to look back and compare what it was like to have to hold a folder all day, or to have it on their phone or their iPad or their, whatever device they're using.
Yeah, and whatever's in the app, you can track it as well. So you can
Yeah.
see what resources people are using, which is really
Yes.
useful.
Which helps with our metrics when we're selling it. We're like, oh, they're actually looking at the presentation 4 days after orientation again for, some additional context. So yes, absolutely.
Okay. Did you beta test with a smaller cohort before launching? If so, what were the changes you made or found helpful?
I wish. I I rolled this out for a class. I was day one of the first orientation, sitting at my computer troubleshooting the things that I didn't know I needed to fix before the morning of. So we didn't roll it out, and I'm actually happy we didn't. I'm happy we didn't roll it out. I'm happy I decided to just go for it, because it allowed me to really see the impact it has across the board. Um, we made lots of changes the first year. I went in probably every session and made a change to something, right? But I think that, again, was what made it easier for me, because since I went ahead and imported everybody, the next year I'm changing in real time. I'm just rolling that over. My guide was already kind of halfway updated when I got to cycle 2 of orientation, because I was in real time fixing those things when it happened. So I wouldn't do it any differently. But if it's something that, you think is more beneficial for your institution, roll it out in a smaller cohort before launching it. Do your honor students, do your trio students, do any group of students who has like a separate kind of orientation experience, and just try that on them. But that's the way that I went about launching ours.
Amazing. I think this question, can you share your orientation guidebook template? I don't know if they mean an actual physical template of your guide, or just some tips around how you think about structuring your guide. So we can maybe just think about, like, is there some things that are like templatized that are just like you've built in and they're really useful?
The map for sure is one that's always going to be in the guide, our campus map, with pinpoints of the spaces that we're using for our presentations in that day. The second thing in there, I have a quick facts. So our offices that I call hot commodities, they have a page dedicated to their immediate contacts, day of orientation. All of our guests have financial aid questions all the time. So that's number one list: financial aid, housing, student health center, advising. Those are our hot topics. So even though they see those people in real time, I also just go ahead and provide the information to them to have it in there. I'm also, I don't know if I can say it or not, I'm welcome to share it with whoever offline. Send me an email, reach out to me. We can hop on a Zoom and I can walk you through it. But the template in itself, the tracks, those are pretty staple in the template. We'll always have 3 tracks for our users, and I mentioned our first time freshman orientation, our transfer orientation, and then our parent and guest track as well. So if there's more details you want about the template, please let me know. But that's kind of the basic things that we're going to have in there, and it does have every single session, social settings, recharge breaks, everything's listed on there, so people can know what their day looks like beforehand.
Yeah, maybe I don't know. I'm thinking out loud, which is maybe dangerous, Brittany. But we could even do, like, maybe we could see if anyone wanted to do a quick show and tell. We could just host a little,
Yeah,
like a meetup virtually, where
yeah,
we
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of walk through things.
I'm down for that for sure.
Okay, well, I'll connect everyone after this with that, and we'll see what's possible.
Okay.
Next question. A university typically hosts several weeks of orientation. Is there any way to preload all information weeks in advance and only have the appropriate week available to the appropriate attendees?
Yes, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong on this. So how I've done our guides, I have guides that coincide with kind of a cycle of orientations. So I have a transfer guide, but once you commit to it, you can only make edits within that guide, right? So if I name it 2026 transfer orientation, I can't go back in and change that feature in it, but I can change the content in it, as long as the guide is open. So I preloaded everything really into the guide based on what our sessions are, where they are, the information, the details of it, and then depending on which kind of group hub you're in is when your guide goes live. So the traditional kind of orientation guide for our student and our parent track, that's all put in there. Only thing that I'm making changes to throughout the summer are locations. If that changes, or presenters' names, if that changes based on colleagues who are in and out over the summertime. But you absolutely can go ahead and start doing it. And I don't think we got to talk about it, but originally my guides started right before orientation. A change that I did make this year is the guides are starting a few months before that, so that we can go ahead and preload information and kind of just run a practice with it and be more comfortable with it. So yes, and Nathan, if I say anything wrong about that or I missed a part, let me know. But that's been my experience with how I do the guides here at A&T.
Yeah, that's good. And I think this is where your bulk import can really come into play and be really useful for personalization, because as you do that bulk import, you can categorize people into groups, and then you can share certain parts of the agenda or tracks or whatever it is with those groups, and it's just really easy to connect that in the back end. So that's a really big pro of the bulk import. And Camille, I can probably send you some support articles about that after to just help, and then if you have any questions, you can let me know. We have a couple more questions. Firstly, a thank you to you for sharing all this information with us. But what were some of the things you realized you missed in your first cycle? That's a good question.
I missed so many things that first cycle, but we were rushing it. So I do want to just say that the missings happened because we were rushing the rollout. I can't reiterate enough the timeliness of importing folks to the app, the marketing of the app. I didn't have a transfer track the first rollout. I forgot to make one. And our first transfer orientation, I said, I don't have a guide for my transfer students. I missed that, but it's something that I could easily roll the template over and kind of create it for the transfer students. Thankfully, in enough time. I didn't utilize the groups a whole lot. So they're talking about being able to kind of open and share information. I really underutilized that feature. I was like, I just need to get everybody, I need to just get everyone in here. Let me just import them. And I really didn't play around with what it looked like to put them into certain categories and tailor the information for those categories. Trying to think. I didn't learn until the first rollout, kind of what you're married to and what you aren't. So I would go in and say, oh, okay, I'm going to just change the guidebook to say NSO 1, 2, and 3 with these dates. Well, I couldn't go back and change it to then say NSO 4, 5, and 6 and new dates. I was stuck with that name. So trying to figure out what I wanted to call it. Like, what is something that will be a usable name throughout the entirety? That also ties back to branding orientation as a whole here at A&T. So something I'm working on as a director. But those were a few things that I just slipped through the cracks. I didn't know that I didn't know until I didn't know. But like I said, I love the fact that a lot of those areas were easy for me to fix in real time. So that made the mistakes not as detrimental, because we really could kind of go in there and I would grab a colleague and say, hey, let's log in, let's knock this out really quick and update it. And so people were still able to access the correct information in enough time.
Amazing. And final question. Do you do any orientations with graduate students? And if so, do you utilize Guidebook for that?
So my colleague who's over graduate student orientation is new, and she actually did orientation for about 15 years at other institutions. So she is really trying to revamp the graduate school orientation. So we're not using it now, but I bet you in a year we will be. I'll say that we've worked together to collaborate on a few initiatives to how to make graduate orientation a little more robust. It wasn't always in person these last couple of years, so she's brought it back to in-person orientation, and she and I meet pretty regularly to talk about, okay, what are you doing? What am I doing? How can we make that work? So I do think in the future it will be. I honestly think we'll add on, or they may get their own guide, but add on another guide for our graduate students to use as well.
Amazing. That's all the questions. So thank you everyone for submitting those questions and asking some really great stuff there. And with that, thank you, Brittany. Thank you so much for coming and sharing all of your experience and ideas around how you're thinking about orientation, campus events, and Guidebook. Really appreciate you coming in today, and thank you everyone who joined us. And we hope to see you at one of these events soon. We've actually got another one coming up in March. So I'll be sharing some information about that after. But Brittany, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time, and I hope everyone has a really great rest of their day.
Thanks for having me, and happy orientation season, everybody. Have a good one.
See everyone later.